Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Howard Ricklow, a partner in the luxury assets team at Collyer Bristow. And today we're going to be talking about buying your first private jet. And I've got with me Colin Dunne of Jetcraft, who are a private jet dealership. So hello, Colin.
Hey, Howard, how are you?
And I am well.
Today you've given up on work from home now. You're using the office.
I'm in our very swish offices in Brompton Road, not far from Harrods, waiting for the food hall to reopen. Actually, still closed at the moment. And you are in somewhere further east of here, I think.
I'm in Dubai at the moment. That's the DIFC, the Central Business District of Dubai, and came here for a meeting and haven't gone home yet.
So it's quite a long meeting then.
Yeah, exactly. It's dragging on a bit. Plenty of coffee. No, it just works for me out here at the moment. My time is kind of split nicely between London, and I work with Sari Sawaya, who's out in Dubai. So considering we're in lockdown in the UK, it just made sense for me to stay out here and work with Sari. Normally I'm based in London and work with Sean O'Leary. He looks after Northern Europe for Jetcraft. Sari, who's based here, looks after the Middle East, Turkey, all the way east to India. So yeah, it's just kind of worked for me out here. I'm not complaining. The sun has been shining, and yeah, it's I have a bit of a social life here as well, which is great.
Right. That's good to hear. So yeah, so you've got a presence, Jetcraft, in many different territories then, in terms of being able to look at aircraft.
Yeah. So I suppose why we're on it, Jetcrafts is a global company. We have 20 plus offices around the world, and you could be on the phone to a colleague in Singapore, sitting in Dubai, WhatsApping somebody else in the States, and the whole thing is we basically have the world covered, which is great to be part of, because you're tuned into every local market. Then if you're talking to your guy in Singapore or in the States, they know exactly what's going on in terms of the aircraft market, in terms of their local market. So it's data at your fingertips, I suppose, and it's a good team to work with.
Oh, great. Well, it's great to see you. And today we're going to be talking about clients who are buying their first private jet, and the sort of advice you give and sort of advice I give, and things they need to know. So I guess starting the ball rolling, I think, which is one of the questions which I often get asked, which is, do I buy a new jet, or is a pre-owned jet okay?
Well, it's personal preference, really. Do you want to buy? Do you buy new cars, or do you go for older cars? What car do you have at the moment, Howard?
I'm very much an old car, still driving the coming up to its 40th birthday MGB.
Okay,
So
vintage. It's personal preference. We trade, or we sell brand new private jets. We had a number of new delivery slots for the Global 7500 from Bombardier last year. Our main business would be in pre-owned aircraft. So, anything from a year old right down to 15, 20-year-old aircraft. Depends on the budget and on what the buyer is looking for, really.
Yeah, sure. And another thing I'm sure clients ask is, do I need to be worried about buying a 10, 15, 20-year-old aircraft?
Yeah, good question. I know some people would be put off by getting into an aircraft that's whatever, 10 years old. I've heard of brand new aircraft on delivery, and they have an AOG aircraft on ground. They can have any aircraft. Personally, like if you think about, so for a Gulfstream, the 12-year check is a huge inspection. They basically strip the aircraft down and put it back together again. I prefer to be getting in a 13-year-old Gulfstream rather than an 11-year-old Gulfstream, because it's come out of the big check. So it depends. But in saying that, aircraft aren't returned to service if they're not fully airworthy, and the regulations are a lot more strict than other vehicles. Like a car, you're not going to drive out of, you potentially drive out of a car garage and a wheel could come off, but that just can't happen with aircraft.
Yeah. Well, that's good, reassuring.
Yeah.
I always, I guess we both do this, which is when we meet the client for the first time buying their first aircraft, ask who they've got on board, if you'll pardon the pun, in terms of who they need to speak to. Obviously, they need to speak to you and they need to speak to me. Who else do they need to think about speaking to?
Yeah, so yourself being on the legal side, and you're going to have an operator, so someone that's going to fly the aircraft for you and make sure that it's current on its maintenance. You can have an operator that would look after the management, operations, crew, the whole lot, or you could go for a smaller management company and they would have it operated by someone else. So operator / management company, legal, as we said, finance, if you're going to be a cash buyer or a finance buyer, you're going to want to finance whatever bank you bank with, or another finance partner, and also the brokerage or jet dealership such as ourselves. So I think, I suppose here's a good point to tell you a bit about Jetcraft, but what we offer is, standard brokerage services, so we can list a client's aircraft on the market. We also purchase aircraft outright for inventory, and that gives us the ability, we've the financial backing there to take aircraft in on trade as well. So if a client wants to upgrade, downgrade, move sideways, we'll come up with a solution to get them into the aircraft that they want.
So when the clients come to see me, before they know often which aircraft they want, I will speak to them broadly in what they may want, and ask them, frankly, how much money they've got to spend on it, whether they'll need finance or whether there's cash. What do you talk to them about in terms of what aircraft they may actually need and what's best for them?
Yeah, it starts off with, what seem basic to us, the questions, but for a first-time buyer, it's not really basic. Where do you want to go? Are there any city pairs that you need to cover and you need that range for? So say London to New York, is that something you're going to do a lot? And then therefore there's an aircraft that can meet that range nicely. Budget, of course, how much do you have to spend? Are you going to be cash or finance on that? How many people do you want to take? What else? Then down to cosmetics. Well, I suppose manufacturer as well. Do you want to fly in a Gulfstream? Do you want a Bombardier? Do you want a Dassault? What does your friend have? Sometimes it comes down to. They're the basic questions. Are you going to charter the aircraft, or is this going to be purely for your private use? All those questions need to be asked up front.
So a lot for them to think about, and I guess there are some people that really know they want a private jet, but they've no idea of the model, or where they're going to be flying, and even what height they want the cabin to be. So
with those questions, you can narrow it down to a couple of types of aircraft. Like the range of private jets out there go from super ultralight all the way up to long range. You can go from 1,000 nautical miles to now, Gulfstream and Bombardier with the 8X, the Falcon 8X, you can get nearly 8,000 nautical miles. So you can cover the world with that. So you really have to have a think about where do you want to go, who do you want to take, how many people. They're the big ticket items.
And do you, given they are big ticket items, do you talk to them about the possibility of their chartering when they're not using it themselves?
Definitely. So, you can charter aircraft some of the time when it's not being used, and you can offset some of your cost of ownership. You'll never, if you're starting to be able to cover all your cost of ownership, well then congratulations, you've just created a little airline for yourself. But you're aware that you can do that, but you can certainly offset some of the cost. And your operator, if you choose an operator that charters aircraft regularly, they can give you an estimation of how much charter revenue they can bring in from the aircraft. But do you want someone flying around in your aircraft? That's another question. Do you want someone? Do you loan out your car to people when you're not driving it? Some people would, some people wouldn't.
Yep, I think that's right. And basic questions I'm asked, and I'm sure you may be too, which is, are they allowed a demo flight before they commit themselves?
Yeah, demo flights always come up. We have to just be sure that the buyer is somehow committed. You can't have demos happening if this passenger just wants a free trip to, from London to the south of France or something. Usually, a buyer will have flown in that type of aircraft anyway, so they'll know, what a Global 5000 looks like. They'll know what a 7X looks like and feels like. If the operator is chartering that aircraft anyway, we'd recommend, charter it on your next holiday or whatever for your next business trip. Charter that aircraft. You might even be able to charter the specific aircraft that's on the market. If you can't do that, we'd look for like a letter of intent in place and a refundable deposit just to show that the buyer is committed. Yeah, you can definitely demo the aircraft. You have to try things before you buy it, and it's an expensive asset and big investment.
Yeah, well, that all makes sense. What about another question I'm sure arises for you, it does for me, which is the cosmetics, what it looks like, and should they be put off if they don't like what it looks like, and can they, and at what cost, change the look to turn it into what they want it to look?
Yeah, it's a good one. Cosmetics are for sure important, and they're not the fundamental question though, because you can paint an aircraft for relatively cheap numbers. So, if you're buying a mid-size aircraft for say 8 mil, you can paint that for 100k, and you can have whatever you want on it for max 200k. You can paint a Global for about 250k, and you're going to be spending 20 mil on that. I did have an interesting conversation with a guy. This was back in April last year, and he was looking at an early Global, so it was like 2012 when the Global first came out. So he's looking at, I think it was a 2012 model. It was around low 20s price range, and then he found a newer Global because he liked the paint job on it. It had a distinctive paint color, and he upped the budget then to 30 mil, down from low 20s. So in that case, well, that's an extreme case, but that's well and truly cart before the horse. If you're spending 30 mil in the aircraft, the 100k paint job is irrelevant really.
Yeah.
200k for 6,000 it's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure it arises though. And another question, I suppose, particularly the times we've been living through, is the relative convenience. I mean, does the private jet owner need to pass through commercial security in the terminal? How does it work? I would imagine it's far more convenient, but how does it work?
Yeah, there's usually what's known as an FBO, so fixed base operation, which is a small private terminal, not beside the main terminal or wherever it is. And yeah, there'd be a lot less traffic going through there, and less stress and less people. I suppose that's the main pull for people at the moment that don't want to be stuck in a terminal with thousands of people. You want to fly on your own and have less interaction with people. So there's definitely, people are looking at private aviation to, get them out of crowds of people, and I suppose the safety aspect of it.
Yeah. And what I should have asked, occurs to me now, is again, the first time buyer may not know, can they choose their own crew? Presumably it's something, it's connected with which operator they're using, presumably.
Yeah, you can choose your crew. That would be a discussion you have with your operator, and yeah, you might change operator but you'd have a pilot from a previous job or a pilot that's been flying with you for years, and you've got a very good relationship with that pilot. So you'd bring him into your new operation. Or if you are completely green to it as a first-time buyer, you can interview the crew if you want, or you can leave that completely up to the operator. It's, at the end of the day, you're going to be flying with these people all the time, so it's important that you're comfortable with them. That's why we're here, to answer these questions and to guide people not only in the choice of aircraft, but making sure that they're thinking about operations and whether they're okay to charter it. And there's just a couple of big things you need to think about before you go and start picking aircraft.
Yeah, another one which may seem like a silly question, but it has arisen, which is, can they take the beloved Chihuahua or perhaps a Great Dane?
Well, I learned this week, as long as you have the certain vaccines, you can take the Chihuahua. We're trying to get a Chihuahua from a country to Cape Town at the moment, and had to make a few phone calls. Yeah, you can, of course, but like taking a dog anywhere, you need to have your vaccinations and whatever other inoculations. But the dog, of course, would travel in the cabin with you and not down in the hold like a commercial airliner.
No, that's great. That's great, and thanks for all that. It's been most informative. I'm sure we can catch up again, carry on this conversation. New things arise. You may eventually escape from Dubai, although I'm not sure any particular hurry.
Until we're allowed back to the pub in London, I don't think I'll be back. But on a serious note, there's good business opportunities out here as well. So the fact that I work closely with Sari in Dubai, I'm able to go through some stuff with him, and the fact that London is in lockdown, we can't really meet people, and Sean O'Leary is in London as well. He's holding the fort, so I can stay out here, make him jealous.
Yeah, making me jealous too. Well, enjoy your stay out there, and thanks very much for joining us. And we'll catch up again sometime soon.
Yeah, looking forward to a beer, Howard. Cheers.
Cheers. Look forward to it. Bye.
Bye.